Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the 10th session of 10 sessions. Unbelievable how this International Week of Happiness at Work has just passed quickly. But hey, time flies when you're having fun. So, my name is Héðinn Sveinbjörnsson, and still you can call me Hedin, and I come from Iceland. So, just a little reminder of why we are doing this, because the International Week of Happiness at Work was set up in 2018 by two Dutch ladies, Martje and Fernande, and because, well, the reason is because we spend so much time at work that and the work can have significant impact on the rest of our lives. And that's why they wanted to focus on happiness at work, or well-being at work, or well-being in life, happiness in life, and whatever. So let's meet our final guests. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit that this topic today is from the book Brave Leadership. Unleash your most confident, powerful, and authentic self to get the results you need. And now I give you hello, 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 hello,
Hello, hello.
Kimberly Davies.
I'm so excited about this, and thank you so much for including me in this week.
well,
What a great treat.
welcome. Thank you for just being with me because I wanted to talk to you on my podcast 3 years ago, but we never. I don't know why we didn't do it, and then now I just like because I have your book and I have listened to it, and so I thought let's
Uh,
finish off with a bang. So
that's awesome.
before,
I'm so excited.
yeah, sorry, yeah, I'll froze a little bit. So, but we won't let that stop us. So,
No, we
Kimberly, because people I know, like what you wrote this book, but
mhm.
people hopefully who are listening to this, wherever on which platform they are doing,
Yeah.
they don't know who Kimberly Davis is. So if you could give us a little info and why is it that you ended up writing a
Writing
book?
brave leadership. Well, so
Yes.
I have a very unique background for the work that I do. I actually was in the theater for about 20 years. And then as I kind of wound my way into the learning and development field, I was on site for a very, very large pharmaceutical in the Northeast in the United States. And I was teaching an engagement workshop, and the director of training came up to me, and he had Googled me, and he saw my coach. I had an old coaching website up that talked about my theater background and et cetera, et cetera. And he essentially changed my life. He walked in the classroom and said, I've always wanted to do a leadership program that used theater tools. And I said, well, I've always been noodling something over, but I haven't had an excuse to develop it. And so we worked out an agreement where I could work directly with this large pharmaceutical. And in exchange for developing this full day experiential program, I would retain ownership of the content. So that was back in 2008. And at the time, I was calling the program On Stage Leadership. And even though we borrow tools from the theater, very little of it is actually like acting. It's tools that I've applied from the theater into the business world that work absolutely beautifully in order to help people show up more powerfully, give a consistent, powerful performance, to feel more confident in themselves. And so the reason I called it on-stage leadership is because it was I believe that as a leader, you are always on stage, because people are always paying attention. They're always watching, they're listening, they're paying attention to what you do, what you don't do. And every minute of every day, they're either deciding that you are a leader that they want to follow or not, right? As I dove into that body of work, everyone was saying, you need to write a book about this because there's nothing out there that's like this, unless leaders want to do a deep dive into the theater world and do a deep dive into the social science world and all of these different things that I had put together. So when I was working on writing my book, I thought, well, what is the one thing that is the common thread for people who are willing to be who they are, their most powerful, authentic, confident, constructive, responsible self, and take full responsibility for the impact that they have on the people around them. And the one commonality amongst all of the people who are willing to do that is their bravery. And so that is where I landed on brave leadership. And for me, I define brave as being your best, most authentic and powerful self, because I know that if I can do that, if I can be who I am at my best, if I could be my most powerful, my most confident self in every situation, then I can do the brave thing. So that's where it came from.
I need a fireworks button. Because yes, because you always need the one. We all probably have this one person who just, hey.
I think we're frozen.
Can you do this? Yes. Well, I'm talking about we all have this person who can push us to, or in the right
Yes,
direction.
and Hedden, I think that's something we forget, that we all have the ability to change people's lives in every situation we face too, by seeing something in them, seeing greatness in them, connecting them with opportunities that we know about that they don't know about. That is something that every single one of us can do over the course of our lives. And yes, that man walked into that classroom and changed my life. And that has been the work of my life since 2008. And I am forever grateful for his ability to see possibility in me.
Yeah, but don't say it out loud too much, because then he maybe wants royalties from the books. You never know. So, but theatricals, are you talking about straighten up your back and remember that you have this thread in
Well,
your.
that is part. Yes, there is some of that is part of it. Yes, but the work that I do actually is it's not like that. So it's so funny because so many people think that what acting is all about is faking it. I'm going to
Yeah.
and really the craft of acting has nothing to do with pretend, has nothing to do with faking it. It is about having clarity about the core drivers, what drives your character from the inside out. What's the impact they want to have? What do they want more than anything? And how do they achieve that impact in the face of all of the obstacles that they face? Right. And if they can have that crystal clarity of focus, it's what allows them to give a powerful performance. Because if actors can be clear about what action am I going to take to have the impact I want to have right now, then they can get out of their very, very human, vulnerable brain that says, gosh, I want the people in the audience to like me. Gosh, I hope I don't make a fool out of myself. Gosh, I don't want to make a mistake. Gosh, I want to prove myself, which are very, very human, natural things to want to do. But when we focus on trying to prove ourselves, when we focus on please like me, please like me, please like me, then we cannot be and bring our best, most authentic and powerful self to the situation. But if we can shift our focus off of ourselves and onto impact, what's the impact I want to have on you right now? Hedden, what's the impact I want to have on all of the people who are joining us today? Then if I can focus on that, then I'm not freaked out by the fact that, oh my gosh, I don't know how many people all over the world could be listening to this. I might make a complete fool of myself. That's possible. But I can't focus on that because I'm focused on having an impact instead.
And that is because when you're saying that, when I think about me going to a theater, you relate to some characters and then you are disconnected with others, and you are just
Yes.
I don't get you, but you like
you. Right. Why do you think that is, Hedden? Why do you
Just
think that is?
you take. Sorry, you froze a little bit because like I was talking about
Why
the
do you think
theater
that
and
is, Hedden? Mm-hmm.
because it's the authentic or the empathy or you
Yes.
connect with the person. But then I think
Yes.
about because we are all different. I
Yes.
gather that we two are very much extroverts,
Well,
outgoing.
you'd be surprised, Hedden. People would think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm really not. I am way,
No.
I know, right? I'm way more of an introvert. I get fueled by one-on-one conversations. I get fueled in small groups. Even though the work of my life, I'm teaching to big groups and speaking to big groups all of the time. That I love it, but it exhausts me. I taught all day this week in Dallas, and it brings me so much joy. It is so fulfilling, and I'm so grateful to do the work. And the next day, I can barely think because I am someone who refuels either alone or one-on-one with small groups. So yeah, you would think I'm an extrovert. I'm kind of an introvert with extrovert. I can pretend to be an extrovert, but I'm really not.
Oh, you're a great actor. Like I have to collect my jaw from the floor. I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
But then,
yeah,
then I have to ask you, like, okay, people are like as I was telling you before we started, like I have been loving this. I have been loving talking to all kinds of people and just dive in and ask questions and I'm on a high every time I finished and stuff. But I always need the people around me. Like I need to go
yeah.
to, well, I'm not talking about the mall, but like I need to go to a coffee shop or like I just need to see
You
people.
are a true extrovert, Hedden. You
Yes,
are a true
and
extrovert. But the other thing is, though, is you are very intentional about surrounding yourself with really amazing people. And I think that also makes a difference. And I think that intentionality is really important. You know yourself. You need to be around people. You need to go to a coffee shop. Being able to know what you need and honor that is so incredibly important if you want to be happy. And so since we're celebrating International Happiness Week, I think one of the most important things we can do as human beings is to honor what is true and real for us. What drives you? How do you how do you roll? What do you
yeah.
need? And when you can do that, then you can do something about it. I think one of the things I talk about all the time in my work is that if you can name it, you can do something about it. But most of us in life, we don't know ourselves very well. We know our business better than we know ourselves.
Oops. Sentence like, but I thought grand finale of your sentence, but I was going to tell you it was hellish for me,
Mhm.
the pandemic. I
Yeah.
couldn't give people hugs. I couldn't like reach out and just like, oh, hello, how are you? And feel the warmth
Yeah.
and just, the conversation. I was just like, and then when it finished, you're reluctant to go in there to give
Right.
hugs. So I
Right.
said, oh, no, sort it. I just we need to hug. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how is it when you teach and you have introverts, leaders, and
Hmm.
you have extroverts, you have the quiet ones, you have the loud ones, like you have all like life is not
No,
like
and nor should it be. And I
no,
think
yeah,
that's the thing, is that how do we celebrate the unique strengths that we have?
yeah,
So, does the world need people who are nurturing and who foster, who are more gentle? Yes, the world needs a lot more of that. Does the world need people who unleash ideas and ignite excitement? And yes, the world needs that. But we can't, if we're all the same, we'll be missing some of these really critical components that the world needs. So my work, the work that I do, is about not asking people to change who they are, but to grow into to really use who they are and bring that to life.
And that is because the most scary thought that I have had in my work life is, what if everybody was like me? What if everybody was like that person? Like
Right.
if we were, because that is sometimes I feel like the school system or society wants you to be.
Yes.
And sometimes, of course, there are people who excel in their craftsmanship, like musicians, actors, and stuff. But oh my God, I think the world would be so dead boring if we were all like me.
Well, and that's really a legacy of the industrial age, and
Yeah.
we were really we were just trying to reproduce in factories all the time and make widgets, and our school systems kind of became that, and our businesses became that, and people love the idea of how do we scale? How do we scale? Well, human beings are unique individuals. It's hard to scale connection. It's hard to scale, some of these things, the engagement. It's hard to scale these things because what lights me up on the inside, what drives me, is going to be very different than what drives you, Hedden, and what drives other
Mm.
people. So yes, we love the idea of scaling things up and keeping things the same, but actually, that in today's world, that it's not possible to excel in that environment.
My favorite story from my own life is,
Yeah.
okay, you have guessed it, I'm an extrovert. And my wife, she is total opposite. So when we were going to a party or something, she was just still taking her coat off. I knew everybody in the room. I knew what they did and how many kids. And she was just like, when did you get that information? And then after 38 years, or like we have been together for 38 years, and then 10 years ago or something, she was in a women's choir, and then she all of a sudden says, "Yeah, I think I will go into the like the five-man like the what do you call it, the committee who runs the
Uh-huh.
choir."
Yep,
And
yep.
I was just like, yeah, yeah, it's good. That like yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's a good step. And then she came out with, yeah, and I think I'm going to chair the committee. And I just looked at her in disbelief and said, "Who are you, and what did you do to my wife?" Because that meant that she had to stand in front of people and say, "Welcome to this live." Blah, 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 blah.
But
And I
that
was
just
just like,
shows what a courageous woman she is, that
"Oh
she's
yes,"
she's standing, she's able to do that in spite of the vulnerability she feels when
and and,
she's out front.
and that is also what we have to teach our kids. Like you, no, I can't, I can't, I can't. When you hear this, I can't, then you have to tell, like, nobody can. How can you not go to work? Like, why are you nervous to go to work? Because you can't, or you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
After a week, you know more than you did a week before. After a
Yeah.
month, you have accomplished. Like, so it's practice, 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 like
Yes.
everything else, isn't
But
it?
Hedden, some of the most powerful leaders are introverts. They're people that
Yeah.
are very thoughtful. They listen. They ask fabulous questions. They are they think deeply about things, and so to lump in extroverts versus introverts is such a disservice to all of us, because we all have gifts to bring in the different arenas, and to have someone who centers people because they're so intentional about the way they listen and consider things, is that's what we need in our leadership. We don't just need people who are out there able to dazzle people. We need people who are able to listen to the true concerns of constituents and what people need from them, and understand the problems and understand what we can collectively do to solve them. So,
And it's fun because one of the LinkedIn users says, "Yes, find your magic and live in it." And then
yes.
And then you get the stage. Kimberly is such a great model for living this
Aw,
way. So
thank
people are like,
you. I don't know
yeah,
who
yeah,
said that, but thank you.
yeah.
That's
Well,
but you know what? Here's the deal, Hedden. It is. I would love to say it is. People are all one way or all another way. That I've got it dialed in. I don't have it dialed in. It's one situation at a time. Because I'm human, just like everybody else, and there are times when I react. There are times when I am trying to protect myself. There are times when I'm in survival mode myself, and it's every situation you face. How do you focus on the impact you want to have instead of reacting to the world around you so you can show up as powerfully as you can?
and probably when you because sometimes happy people, they always get this. Oh, you're always happy. But sometimes happy people also need to take a rest from being happy because
I don't think
we
anyone is
all,
one way or another way. I don't think that's the way humans roll.
no, I
And,
know,
and, and
but
people that
yeah,
tend to be happy are people who are pretty intentional about it.
yeah, yeah,
They're
you
looking for
choose.
things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
In the midst of really hard situations, they're looking for, okay, what is this here to teach me? If everything is going wrong today, well, I've got breath. I am here. What's next? So I think the happiest people in the world are the most intentional people in the world, because they're making micro choices in every situation about how they choose to look at things instead of just reacting to the world. Because I tell you what, the world, there's so much that is out of our control right now, and we focus on all the things that are scary and outside of our control. Of course we're going to be overwhelmed. Of course we're going to be scared and anxious and feel vulnerable. That is natural. So how do we control what we can control? Well, you can control your own choices. You can control your own behaviors. You can work on managing your thoughts, and that's it. My work is all about how do I focus and expand and maximize the things that are within my realm of control, so I have greater influence with on the things that are outside of my realm of control. But um, but it's really taking ownership of your own behaviors and choices that leads you to that freedom.
But man, like because you mentioned the situation in the world, me and my wife were talking about it the other day, and this like the scene in Dirty Dancing where Patrick Swayze says, "This is my space and this is your space," and
Right, right, right.
you just have to like everything negative. You have to somehow say to yourself, yes, it is a bad thing out there, but I don't have any, like, how am I going to do this? Because you have to guard yourself for all the negativity. Sometimes,
You do have to
yeah, protect yourself.
make sure you're watching your mindset. I think that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
important. And the thing that I'm really working on, and some days I succeed and some days not so much, but the thing I'm really working on is when I see people behaving in a way that is hurtful or cruel, or they're doing things that feel very much against my personal values or whatever that is. I try to remind myself that people aren't cruel to other people. People who feel good about themselves aren't cruel to other people. I don't believe that if you feel good about yourself truly, that you are cruel to other people, because you don't have to be, right? I think it's almost
Yeah.
always someone who's trying to overcompensate for not feeling good. And so, when I can get kind of dig down into the root of what's really underneath these yucky behaviors, um, then I can enter into it with a little bit of empathy. Now, that doesn't excuse the behavior, that doesn't make it right, that doesn't do anything other than me trying to understand the human behind the behavior. And like I said, sometimes that's easier than it is at other times.
Yeah.
But the more
But,
that we focus on the us versus them thing, and we otherize other people, then and stop seeing them as human beings just like us, then that's where the crux of the problem really is, because we're actually so much more alike than we are different. I
Yeah.
mean, you and I live worlds apart, and yet I feel like we have so much in common.
Yeah, I feel like we have known each other for like
Forever,
hundred
right? I mean, I
years.
think you and I got to know each other right
In
when my book
2020.
came out,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So,
2020, wasn't it?
so it's been a long time we've known each other, and
Yes.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah, but it's first time we see each other like eye to eye. But it's also the fear. If you give in to the fear of,
Yeah,
if you see a person, oh, he has a tattoo. Do you remember
yeah,
when back in the days when there were not so many with tattoos,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
saw a guy with a tattoo, then you were
yeah.
just like, oh my God, I have to go this way around him or whatever. And today it's just like, oh, show me the
Well, yeah,
tattoo. This
and
is
some
me.
people wear more tattoo than they wear clothing. So,
Yeah.
so
And that is because we have to deal with our fears. And but
yeah, well, and so what's underneath that fear? What meaning are we making?
yeah,
So when
yeah,
you look at a tattoo, well, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything, right? A number of years ago, it had a meaning that, but now we're starting to realize, tattoo is just a way of self-expression. Of
yeah, yeah.
sometimes it's a way people use to commemorate something that's important to them, or to remind them of something that they want to remember. So there's a lot of different reasons why people might have a tattoo, might choose that or not choose that, and it's the meaning that we make of all of these things that gets us in trouble.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Some way back, actors were considered like devil's handiwork, wasn't it?
Oh,
Like
that's right. I know.
yes. Oh,
Yes.
aha.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you
So
go back
making that.
through
Yeah.
history, you'll see all sorts of things where
Yes.
women were, women acted a certain way were treated like witches, and I mean,
Yeah.
and so
Burn
so
them.
it's
Burn
just
them.
it's I think that's just part of human nature.
Yeah.
Tribalism is part of human nature. When we're afraid, we want to make it wrong. And when usually it just means when you're afraid, you're vulnerable, and because you've made some meaning out of it that is not there. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't
No,
mean anything, right? But we impose meaning on it in order to try to make sense of the world. And if we can learn to focus on having an impact instead of what getting stuck in our head, then the nice thing is that all of those body signals that come up when you're afraid, because the amygdala in your brain starting to send cortisol, which is that stress hormone that's causing your heart to beat fast and causing your hands to sweat and your muscles to tense, and all of the things that happen when you feel anxious or afraid or overwhelmed or vulnerable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you can focus on the impact you want to have instead, it busies your brain so it doesn't even register
yeah.
that there's something to be afraid of, and you're allowed to show up powerfully and bravely in your life.
But how is it? I gather that you have traveled to Europe and stuff because
Oh yes, I love Europe.
in 2023 I went to Canada to Vancouver via Seattle, and when
Oh,
I came,
fantastic.
I had to stay in Seattle for 3 hours, and I was so nervous because I don't know if it was me or if I had in my brain I had put up scenarios because machine guns and people who are like angry
In Seattle, that's
yeah, yeah,
hilarious.
at the airport. Like it was just
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah,
and going to Vancouver, just I was like, okay, they're more like us in Europe and stuff. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
I went from Frankfurt, no, from Vancouver to Frankfurt, and it felt like I was coming home because
Yes,
everything was laid back. And so
yes.
like, is the difference between like you guys in the US that you have been taught to fear everything, whereas like I like we have been talking about this with our kids and stuff, like give a person a fair chance of
Yes,
get to know them and
yes,
then make a decision if you are
yes.
like
Based on
it,
their behavior. based on your
Yes,
behavior. Yeah.
instead of assuming that you are bad every time. So, so that is, what do you think about that? Oh, our friend Rick hasn't.
You
Oh,
see Rich Gas is on.
yeah,
Hi, Rich. I'm so happy to see you. Um, uh, so, so many things, so many different thoughts are coming
yeah.
up right now. Um, uh,
When you came to first to Europe, what was your
yeah.
thought?
When I
Yeah,
first
like,
came to Europe, so
yeah.
the first time I went to Europe, I think I was 26.
What did
But
you
so
feel?
it's so because it's interesting because I after the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, I moved to Costa Rica, and now I'm back in the United
Yeah,
States
yeah, yeah. I
living in
remember.
Italy.
Yeah,
And I had not spent much time in Latin America. Costa Rica is a little bit different than most of Central America because it doesn't have a military. But then when you travel into Guatemala or Colombia, that's where I think I felt similarly that you felt in Seattle, the presence of machine guns and
yeah,
guys,
yeah.
okay, all right, this is scary. But I think you just after being there, I realized that it wasn't scary, but it was the meaning I was making in my mind about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you remember when you were 26, when you came to Europe and you were just like, what's this? What can people be like, or like, did you have any thought? Because,
No, you know what? The first time I went to Europe was back in the 90s. So it was a long, long, long time ago. Um, and I thought I thought it was magical. I just think it's magical. Um, but I think like anything else, I was, my five senses were on fire, right?
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah. You
sounds
were
and
just,
smells and sights and um, and so I didn't. I don't think I wasn't afraid of anything in Europe, and I also didn't feel a sense of a greater sense of safety. I was just enchanted. I think for me, the first time I traveled that I had that kind of, oh my gosh, I'm in a different world, was when I went to Japan, because I was so conspicuously different than than everyone else. And I went to Japan in the 90s, so there wasn't as many people that look like me that were walking around. And now that's it's pretty normal. But I remember sitting on a city bus, and I had never, I'm a very privileged person. People, for the most part, um, in my own country, uh, I I can walk into any building and not have someone look sideways at me. And that is a position of privilege, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so I remember sitting on a city bus in Japan, and I sat down next to this elderly woman, and she looked at me with terror in her eyes, and she got up and she moved. And it was the first time in my life that I understood what it must be like for someone to make a judgment about you simply by the way that you looked, because I'd never experienced that before. And, I think it's something I wish everyone could experience in their lifetime, because once you do experience it, you realize that you've been doing that to some degree all of your life. Your behavior may not be so overt as hers was, but to some degree, we're making this, oh, look at the guy with the tattoo, like you said, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, oh, look at that. And we're making snap decisions about people. And we're living into those snap decisions. And what are we missing? What are we missing by making these decisions so quickly about people, that people that could enrich our lives
Yeah.
just because of our own fear. And what I found is the more I can focus on having an impact outside myself, what I call your super objective, the more I can focus on living into that instead of just showing up and reacting to the world around me, then the more I can, that brings my values to light, it brings my strengths to light, and it also makes sure I don't miss out on all the richness around me.
Yeah. Paul Howry, he says, the story we tell ourselves is the story we live. And
Yes.
then our friend,
Yes.
like, I think they have started their own conversation in the chat on
This is
LinkedIn.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. You
I,
guys are amazing.
and Rich Gasson, he says, like, so true, we commonly create the environment we swim in without thinking we are doing it. A
Yes.
positive attitude and curious mindset can turn almost any day around. And
Yes. Yes.
and because Rich is like when I heard his life story, I was just by like, oh my God, you are my hero.
He's
And I was
remarkable.
just, I need to talk to you. And we just became friends. Like, and
That's awesome.
it's just, yeah, because it's
Yeah.
just how,
But for Rich, it's not just talk. He models this every day.
yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
models
yeah.
it every day in every conversation he has.
And
Uh,
maybe because he commented, like, because you said the super objective,
yeah.
like the brave
Creating
leadership.
possibilities for greatness. And Rich is,
Yes.
I tell you what, if anyone lives his super objective, it is Rich Gasson.
Yeah.
It is
So
amazing.
so if we could turn up, because you have something called the braveleadershipuniversity.com, and
Hmm.
like, tell me, what is it like? Okay, you go around, you talk about brave leadership, and you talk about unleashing your confident and power, like the most confident, powerful, and authentic self to get the best results and stuff. How do you build it up? Like, if you were where you're teaching your
Uh-huh.
stuff for a whole week,
Uh-huh.
people must be tired. Like,
Different groups. So most of my stuff is a full day, and so, no, I would wear them out if they're exhausted after a day with me. So I feel like if they can't think at the end of the day, then I've done a great job.
oh yeah. Ooh. But tell me a little bit about the Brave Leadership University. Like,
Well,
where do
so
you?
what's so exciting is because we've got all sorts of exciting things going on right now.
Yeah.
So we've got a whole suite of virtual courses as well as the live courses that I teach, and we're building out a whole suite of tools. So we'll have a super objective tool and all of these different assessment tools. That I mean, it's so exciting. And Hedden, you are the first person I'm telling this to publicly. I've shared this with a few people in private,
Hmm?
but I'm working on the second edition of Brave Leadership. So because the world has changed so much since COVID, and so some of the examples I used in the original book, sadly, the
Um,
purpose-driven leaders that were there before COVID, when you lose your purpose, you lose your way as an organization. So I am updating the book, and so my goal is to democratize this conversation, because for a very, very long time, the only way people could interact with this conversation was bringing me in for a full day workshop, and that's expensive. That's hard for everyone to do. Not everyone has the luxury of going to a full day executive leadership program through university. I've been teaching with SMU since 2009, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and then I also teach on my own as well. So not everyone gets a chance to do that. In fact, more people often than not. So I really feel that if everyone could know their super objective, that could make a tremendous positive impact in the world, because your super objective takes your values, your strengths, it marries them, and it gives you a very clear, specific external focus of attention, so you can take action in every single situation you face to show up as your best, most authentic and powerful self. And also, when you don't show up as your best, most authentic and powerful self, which happens because you're human, it gives you a way to course correct and hold your own feet to the fire. So I wanted to make as many ways to engage in this conversation as possible. So that's why we'll have the app that we're building out that's going to have the virtual classes on it. It's going to be financially feasible for most people to be able to engage in this conversation. So, we can all show up as our best, most authentic and powerful selves. And the byproduct of that is maybe we can make the world a better place together.
Well, Brave Leadership 2.0. I feel a wave coming.
Woo!
Tell me, like, you have the university, you have an app coming, you are traveling, and you are meeting people, and you are doing the courses, online courses. Have you cloned yourself, or like, are you
No, but Hedden, you and I met back probably in 2018 when my
no,
book
no,
first came out, right?
2020, because in the
We met in 2020. Oh, we met during
yeah,
the pandemic then. Okay.
when I
So,
met Kevin Monroe.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been doing this work for a long time.
Yes.
There are people that seem to pull remarkable content and are incredibly prolific, and they do it like in an instant. I'm not that person. That's not who I am. It took me 5 years to write my book, to get it over the finish line. So I'm not someone who just, I can do all this really fast. I've been working on this body of work for years and years and years. And so, when I'm not in the classroom, then I'm working on building out the app and the online courses. I was building those out during the pandemic, but I didn't really put them out into the world as much as I needed to. And I think that's the thing that I realized, is that everyone was saying, oh, so Kimberly, when is your next book coming out? When are you doing? Yeah, like I felt this tremendous amount of pressure to move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's what they do in our business, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you've written this book, now you need to read another book, and you need to reinvent yourself all the time to be doing these other things. And what I realized is that because I don't have a clone, little old me was not able to evangelize this conversation enough the first time. And it is too important of a body of work to just move on from. I have seen this work change lives. And if I just move on because that's what my career says I should do, then I am not having the impact that I'm here to have. So my goal is to play a bigger game with the same conversation to ensure more people can engage with it, and that we can collectively celebrate what makes us brave, what makes us unique and special, and the impact that we can have.
Mm. I was talking to Gethin Nadine. He's a Welshman from like UK. And
Uh-huh.
he said, like, he's been in this game business for organizational whatever.
Yeah.
It has taken him 20 years just
Yeah.
to, trial and error and moving on and doing this
Yeah.
and
There
doing
is
that.
no,
Yeah.
the media loves to propagate the idea of the overnight, sensation.
Success. Yeah.
There is
Hmm.
no overnight success. It is simply one day after another day after another day. Are you having the impact you want to have? Yes or no? How are you moving yourself forward? Baby step after baby step after baby step. I don't think, in fact, I know there is no such thing as instant success. I think that is a fantasy.
Yeah, you have to work, like, you have to. Isn't it that what they say, like, about the idol and stuff? Like, people just thrown out into mega stardom, and then in 3 years they are
They burn
disappear
out.
because,
Right.
yeah, because
Yeah.
they don't know,
Well,
they
and
have
that's
not.
what, so Hedden, here's the deal for me. Um, as you know, when we were first, when we first met, I had Twitter chats going, and I was
Yeah.
on social media nonstop. And I was just going. And I couldn't even hear my own voice anymore. And I was feeling all this pressure that I need to move on to something else. And because I couldn't hear myself think, I needed to step back. And it wasn't until I was able to step back, and I pulled out of social media for, probably a year and a half, almost a couple years. And I'm about ready to make another, to jump back in. But I want to jump in with very with a lot of intentionality, because I was losing a sense of my own voice in the conversation. And I think it's really important to, while we engage with each other, and we're so excited about supporting each other and reading each other's stuff and cheering each other on, but to, what can we offer the world if we burn ourselves out? We
Yeah.
don't have anything to offer. And so it was really, it was an important time for me to step back and to evaluate, what is it I want to do? Where does this conversation fit? And what I realize is there, you know, being brave now is more important than it's ever been. And if we can help people find the way to believe in themselves and have the confidence to have the impact that they want to have, and get out of this constant fight or flight or freeze mode, which we are all in because we are completely overwhelmed by all of the things that are outside of our control, then we can do some pretty remarkable things together. But we have to give ourselves permission to step back and listen to our own hearts, because we've got a lot of wisdom within ourselves. And we're always out there trying to go, tell me how to do it. Give me the acronym for fixing this, and give me the 5 steps for doing this right. And you know what? Here's the deal. Inside yourself the right steps. Do you stop learning? No, you continue to learn, but you need to be able to step back and put it through your own personal sieve so you can know what is valuable and rich for you, and then toss the things that aren't. And if you can't do that, if you don't step back, you're drowning in a sea of information.
And it is also because Kimberly as a 20-year-old, Kimberly as 30-year-old, Kimberly as a loner, and Kimberly as a mother, like, there are things that changes, and then
That's
just
right. Your
becoming,
perspective of the world,
yeah,
you look at the world through a different lens. And
yeah,
that's important. That's
yeah,
important.
and we know stuff now. But
Right.
then I look at my twins. They are 23,
Yeah.
and we have been talking about, yeah, they have to make mistakes, and
Yes.
then we can talk about it. But
Yes.
what can you learn from it and stuff? And musicians, like my favorite band ever is Queen, and they have gone through, like, from the first album to the last album,
Yeah.
like, they had, and people, it was like, no, that does not sound like Queen, or like when
Uh-huh.
Coldplay, they do this and that,
Yeah.
like, and people are irritated. But why? They have to evolve, because
Right.
you don't want to be in the rat race, always
Right.
in the same
Right.
wheel.
Right.
So
Well, and I think the thing that's also important is that to be in service of other people have expectations of that and what that's going to look like and what we're going to bring, right? But we have to remember that our existence on this planet is to also be the best human being that we can be. And that means we have to stay true to ourselves too. Because if we focus only on, giving the world what it needs of me, right, then I am not able to bring the world the best me. So it's critical that I learn. I learn to understand myself enough to know, what does it take for me to bring my best me to the world,
mhm.
so I have something to offer? Well, I need to exercise, and I need to sleep well, and I need to surround myself with people that lift me up, and I need to, they're but you have to be very intentional about it, because when most of us are doing life, we're just in survival mode. We're just trying to get through 1 hour after the next hour after the next hour after the next hour, and we're not putting that intentionality into crafting our lives, crafting our lives so we can be and bring our best selves to the work that we're doing. And we've got a lot more choice in that than we think. We tend to say, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that and I should do this and I should do that. But When you switch from I have to, to I choose this and I choose that, and if you don't choose it, then you're going to feel it. You've got to find a way to choose what you're doing in the moment. And is it going to be something you always like? Well, I hate doing, finances, and I hate doing, but if I don't do it, my business doesn't survive and I can't have the impact that I want to have. So I have to find a way to choose it powerfully so I can do the work that I'm here to do.
I think it's also like because we are at that age that we have tried and we have trial and error and stuff. And when young people they come out to work, and then when the sentence comes, no, we tried that 5 years ago. That doesn't work. It's the most mood killer ever. Like it's
Yeah,
just then the young ones they don't get to evolve, and like because we have gone through trial and error. Of course there is
right, right.
this, if you get a driving license and you drive into a tree, then you possibly would tell the others that that's a bad idea, don't drive
Yeah.
into a tree.
Yeah,
Like,
don't do drive into
no,
trees.
that's a
Good
stupid
idea.
idea. But still there are some things that you have to try, and you have to give people permission to try.
Well, don't you think it's so funny though? Because when I think you were talking about your twins and at 23, and I think when I was 23, I knew everything. I thought I knew everything. And the older I get, the more I know nothing. I know nothing. And I think with age comes the wisdom, being able to recognize that you don't know everything,
Oh
and
yes, yeah.
and the power of cultivating curiosity, right? The power of staying in curiosity about things. Well, maybe it didn't work 5 years ago, but why not? What's different now? What can we learn from that experience and maybe try to iterate on what we did 5 years ago? So I I think with age comes the perspective of I've seen myself fail enough to recognize that I don't have it all figured out. And the more I realize I don't have it all figured out, the more I see that I need to learn, and the more I'm present with what people have to share with me and what I can glean from that, and the more curious I become.
When you were younger, like we are talking about
Yeah.
5 to 12-year-old, were you curious? Like were
Oh,
you
was I
really?
curious?
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very curious. I mean, I grew up on a ranch in Montana,
Yeah.
so I was a very weird child. I used to sing at the top of my lungs to the cows as I'd feed them after school every night,
Oh,
and
that's weird.
yeah,
That's really weird.
yeah,
I
that
don't know
was
what that means.
really until you hadn't. So I grew up in Montana, so it's a little bit weather-wise like Iceland. So
Mhm.
it could be 20 below zero. That's Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it was
Uh,
cold. It was really cold.
that must be
Um,
really cold.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I would be like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'd have my snowsuit on and my mom's over that, and then something layers and layers and layers over that, and then I'd wrap this giant scarf around my face, and then I'd go out to feed the cows, and I'd be singing at the top of my lungs, and I was taking voice lessons at a pretty early age, so I was studying all these Italian arias, and I loved Barbara Streisand, and so that was the kind of the stuff I was singing, and I'd be singing at the top of my lungs, and I'd get back from feeding the cows, and there would be so much ice over my scarf because of my voice coming through,
Yeah.
and it would
Yeah.
freeze, that I'd have to chip myself out.
Clunk, 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 clunk.
Yeah, yeah,
But the curiosity thing is because when I was young, my parents said, "Why are you so curious? Stop being so curious." But today, I love it because this keeps me on fire. Like this conversation is just like, oh, tell me a little bit more about that. And like because you listen and you're trying to find oh yeah, I can relate to that. This, tell me
yes,
more about this. And
yes.
curiosity is a good thing, but I know I could be that annoying kid.
No, I think it's one of the most exciting things there is, because if you stay in curiosity, you are never bored,
Yeah.
right? You're never bored. There's
And then
always something that you can go, oh, wonder about,
if you can turn a bad situation into an adventure, like when
right.
everybody knows that when we are traveling and we go to a shitty place where the food is just like, ugh, and then we go to the restaurant which is like super duper and nothing is wrong with it and stuff. What do we talk about when we get home?
The shitty place.
The shitty place,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was an experience that we could
That's
have.
right.
Yes,
That's right.
so it is
That's right.
also, yeah. So,
That's right.
but we have, like I predicted, like we have been going on for an hour or 55 minutes.
Oh no, that's
I
like in a blink.
know.
It happened in a blink. Can't we do this like for the rest of the day? No, everyone will be
And
bored.
that is the
So
problem with the
hang out with Paul and Rich and
yeah, and Sarah, and like with 10 sessions I could have talked to people a lot more, because well, Paul is he's the only one which like went to 1 minute, one
I'm
hour
excited to
and
listen to all of them.
20
I
minutes.
was in the classroom, so I couldn't listen to them.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking forward to all the recordings.
Well, hopefully you can, because there are so many gems. And Rich Sheridan, he was just like, he blew me away. And then he said, "Oh, are you willing to do an experiment with me?" And I said, "Yes." And then he stood up and went away. And then he pulled two of his younger senior staff members. And then like we talked about the future in his company, and he went to teach. And I was just like, yes. And it gave, you know, it gives the conversation so much
But that's
thickness.
right.
And
But you're
yes,
riding the wave, Hedden. You're riding the wave. You're going in open to without expectation and just co-creating with what happens in the minute in the moment with you.
yeah,
And that's where the magic is. The magic is in that co-creation of we're both in this together. And
yeah.
that is so exciting and exhilarating.
But how, because we have to round this up, but like, are there any thoughts, whatever people can take, like what to do, or when people say, no, I can't do this, like what can we do to believe that we are good enough?
So here's the deal. I believe that confidence comes from knowing that you can count on yourself.
Yeah,
Okay. Confidence comes from knowing that you can count on yourself. So when you get yourself out of reaction survival mode and you're focused on having an impact in the different situations that you face, then you know that you can count on yourself to have an impact, right? You know you can count on yourself to do the harder things. And it ratchets up your own self-belief, your own confidence. Like when you focus on the impact you want to have outside of yourself and you're super objective, what that does is it marries your strengths and your values, and it allows you to show up as your best, most authentic and powerful self. So you feel good, you feel energized because you get to be you powerfully. And you being you powerfully and constructively is going to ratchet up your confidence, and it's going to make you enjoy life a lot more. It's going to help you be happier, and the byproduct is you're going to have a lot better results. But if you focus on the results, probably not going to be as happy as you would if you focused on impact.
and just notice things around you. Enjoy it. Enjoy the birds. Enjoy the, you know,
Yes, to savor
whatever.
life,
Yeah,
savor life. I
drink
think
it in.
one of the things that I've had a lot of wake up calls in my life between family members, being ill, or the pandemic, or my own health scares, all of these different things. And what it's done for me is it helps me look at the world with new eyes almost every day. And, I'm sad that we have to have so many wake up calls to be reminded of, wow, look at the beautiful day around you. And, look at this smile on your kid's face, and taste this delicious meal, and smell, but it really, if you get into your five senses, you can almost immediately find something to appreciate.
Yeah. But how, your book, when is it due? The Brave Leap, is
I
it
suspect
before
it's going to
time?
come out this spring. Knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood.
This
And
spring.
so
Yeah,
this spring,
so that is,
spring of 2025,
oh, thank you.
the revised edition. Yeah, the
Yeah.
second edition.
Because in Iceland we only have autumn, so that's like we have not have a summer. It was just like, oh, we got 2 days, and then autumn came. So we have been like, but
Yeah,
that's nice. Like we get
yeah.
we get
But
the
now you
cities.
can go sit in those wonderful hot springs of yours that just make life magical. So, because in
Mm.
the summertime it's too hot to do that. So in the wintertime you get to savor that.
Well, we don't get that. Like that is only the East people. Like the West.
Oh, I'm
They,
sorry.
yeah. Well, they get the bad winter, so I don't care. Never
Oh,
mind.
okay.
So, right, Kimberly, I somehow I knew this would be awesome.
Oh, I
Like,
had no doubt in my mind. I was so
like
excited to come talk to you, Ed, and I was like, yes, this is going to be a blast.
it takes one to know one crazy people, no crazy people, like
That's right.
whatever. Like
That's right.
just take whatever you like. But
That's right.
people find Kimberly on LinkedIn. Are you on Facebook? Yes, you're on
I
Facebook.
am.
Whatever.
I'm on
Yeah.
stage. Kimberly is my Facebook page, and LinkedIn, and those are probably my two main platforms. LinkedIn right
Yeah.
now is my main platform, and then reach out to me on braveleadershipuniversity.com.
Oh, this is. But just thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I knew that this would be a good roundup for the 10 sessions, and I never have to listen to the song again, the countdown song. So that will be nice.
I
But
think it set us up for success, though, hadn't it? I
well,
felt
when
so
you
relaxed.
said when you pointed out that you could send out, like you can get ready,
That's right.
then I was just like, yeah, okay. But thank you very much, and people
I
just had.
appreciate you so much, Hedden. I
Thank
really,
you.
really
I
do. Thank you for
likewise,
including me in this.
and thank you guys who listened and to was
Thank you,
with me
Paul
on the
and
week.
Rich, for being as much a part of the conversation. We so appreciate that. It was
Yeah,
great to see you.
and the LinkedIn user.
And
Don't
the
forget.
LinkedIn user, whoever the mysterious
Yeah.
LinkedIn user,
Ooh,
we
doodle,
appreciate it.
doodle, doodle, doodle. So thank you very much, and have
All
a
right,
great
everybody. Have a
weekend.
wonderful day, evening.